Hello friends. Today we are going to discuss about prohibited and restricted procedures under Mental Health Care Act of 2017. I am Dr. Suresh Badadmat, Professor of Psychiatry working at NIMANS, Bangalore. Before I start my presentation, I would like to place this disclaimer. This presentation is for academic and training purpose only. If you want to have a legal opinion, please do contact an advocate. This presentation is not a substitute for professional legal opinion. Conflict of interest? None. In this video, I'm going to discuss about prohibited and restricted procedures under Mental Health Care Act of 2017. This Mental Health Care Act of 2017 received President's assent on 7th April of 2017. Let's discuss about the prohibited procedures, which are coded under Section 95. The prohibited procedures are electro-convulsive therapy without the use of muscle relaxant anesthesia. That means you have to give modified electro-convulsive therapy. You cannot give unmodified ECT. That means without anesthesia or muscle relaxant, you cannot give ECT. It has been banned now. Electro-convulsive therapy for minors. Of course, here the ECT can be given to minors provided the treating physician should have taken the consent from the NR and also the permission from the Mental Health Review Board. Then only the ECT in minor is approved. That means it is not prohibited, but it is restricted, especially with regard to minor for ECT. Further, sterilization of a man or woman when such sterilization is intended as a treatment for mental illness, that is completely prohibited. Or chaining a patient in any manner or for whatsoever purpose is completely prohibited. Further, seclusion or solitary confinement is completely prohibited under Section 95 of Mental Health Care Act. Let's discuss about the Section 96, that is restriction on psychosurgery for persons with mental illness. Here in this legislation, Section 96 clearly says that if you want to perform psychosurgery as a treatment for mental illness, this clause clearly says that informed consent of the patient is essential. At the same time, approval from the Mental Health Review Board has to be taken. Further, the legislation also says Central Mental Health Authority and also State Mental Health Authority in the respective state shall form regulations regarding the psychosurgery. That means, along with the legislation, regulations also has been coded. Regulations under the Chapter 6 Psychosurgery has been coded. That Regulation 17 clearly says that psychiatrist should make an application to the Mental Health Review Board. A certified copy of informed consent has to be attached along with clinical summary and justification for the psychosurgery as a treatment for mental illness need to be clearly documented. A certified copy of the medical record should be submitted to the Mental Health Review Board. The respective Mental Health Review Board, after going through all the records, talking to the patient's family members, if required, even to the treating psychiatrist, they will discuss and then the permission will be given to conduct psychosurgery. Now, let's move into Section 97, Restraints and Seclusion. Under Section 97 of Mental Health Care Act, restraints and seclusions have been clearly coded. Here, it clearly says physical restraints may only be used when it is the only way to prevent imminent and immediate harm to the person. And also, it should be authorized by a psychiatrist. Further, it has to be used only when it is absolutely necessary. And when the restraints have been given, it has to be documented in the medical records. The nature of restraint, time, duration, monitoring, and justifications has to be clearly documented. And it shall not be used as a form of punishment or deterrent for the person with mental illness. And it should never be used on the grounds of shortage of staff in the mental health establishment. Further, NR should be informed within 24 hours of the restraint and he has to be given the justification. And also, the restraint, if it is used, it has to be done under supervision. And every mental health establishment shall report to the Mental Health Review Board on monthly basis with regard to restraint. And it has to be provided in a certain format. MHRB can warn the mental health establishment if they are using excessive restraints on patients. Further, Central Mental Health Authority has also given certain regulations with regard to restraint in Chapter 6. Regulation 18 clearly talks about the restraints. It tells that periodic training of the staff has to be done with regard to de-escalation and alternative to restraint has to be done. Further, it also discusses the nominated representative should be discussed with the option of sedation to avoid restraint has to be told. Further, monthly report of the restraint in Form E should be given to Mental Health Review Board on every month first week, and a signed copy of the Form E should be submitted to the MHRB on the first week of every month. This is Form E. Form E has three parts. The first part is demographic details and also the indication for physical restraint and informed consent whether it is taken from the NR or not, and reason for not taking has to be discussed in the part 1. Part 2 talks about the details about the physical restraint, the date of restraint, at what time it started and at what time it was ended. Further, overall medical assessment has to be done, that is blood supply, pulse, blood pressure, all those monitoring details has to be recorded in the part 2. And the part 3, it talks about the dosage of the chemical restraint. That means if the medications have been given to calm the patient, the medication, name of the medication, dose, the route of administering the medication has to be done, frequency and total dose and side effects need to be documented, and it has to be done, signed by the person in charge of the mental health establishment. To conclude, my dear friends, watch out for the prohibited procedures, restraints and seclusion. Educate and train all your staffs regarding prohibited and restricted procedures. Submit Form E monthly on the first week. Please remember, seclusion or solitary confinement is completely prohibited under Mental Health Care Act of 2017. Thank you very much for giving your valuable time. Stay safe.